All right, it's Cat Shades here, and I'm with another old story for you all today. Yes, Jack Owen of Cannibal Corpse sent me a threat telling me that I would be sued, and this happened back in 2000. At least Metal Blade would sue me on behalf of Cannibal Corpse. Now, our story does take place in the year 2000, so there's numerous references to antiquated technology and stuff that may not be understandable for younger people. So back in 1999, I was making a small fortune selling bootleg CDs and VHS videos. And one of my hottest sellers was a Cannibal Corpse compilation. Now, this was when there was Napster and like eBay. Both of these sites were brand new. Back then, in order to illegally download a song on Napster, though, you'd have to wait like 45 minutes to 2 hours for a single song to download. And the quality of these downloads back then was kind of crappy by today's standards. And we would take these downloaded files sometimes and burn them onto CDs. That copying CDs was referred to as burning CDs. I'm not sure if people still do that now. So it's not a big secret that after the release of Cannibal Corpse's Vile back in 1996, former vocalist Chris Barnes was pretty bitter about being fired from the band. He sold bootleg copies of the songs that ended up on Vile, and the working title was called Created to Kill, with his vocals. So I acquired these songs, and as a part of this compilation, in addition to these songs, I bought the Japanese versions of Gallery of Suicide and Bloodthirst, so I added some extra songs. These would be The Exorcist by Possessed, Zero the Hero by Black Sabbath. On the Gallery of Suicide, there was a song called Sacrifice by the band Sacrifice, and Confessions, which is also another Possessed song. So I took all these cover songs and added them to the Created to Kill tracks. And at the time, Dying Fetus had recorded a cover version of Born in a Casket that was supposed to be on some Cannibal Corpse tribute album that just never came into fruition. So I added that song to this compilation as well. And so I put all these songs on one convenient CD and sold it for $25 each in year 2000 money. So yeah, it was a hot seller. I sold probably a couple hundred copies of this. And in addition to eBay, I would spam guest books on various death metal sites. Now, a guest book, people would just leave comments back then, and you would leave your real name and your real email address for the whole world to see, and anybody could just send you an email if they wanted to. Things were really different back then. People weren't so secretive of their email addresses and afraid of being spammed. So I would spam every email address on various death metal guest books, trying to sell them certain items. And oftentimes I just spam them and then leave for a few hours, come back, and I'd have a PayPal account full of money and orders that I need to fulfill. One day, one of the people to whom I sent an email soliciting my items forwarded the email that I had sent to Jack Owen of Cannibal Corpse. Jack's email address at the time was oyshell@webtv.net. Now, for reasons I'm not sure, Jack's nickname was, and possibly still is, the Oyster. So Jack sent me an email threatening to have Metal Blade come and sue me. So I wrote him back. I told him that if he needed to sue somebody, he should sue Chris Barnes, since Chris Barnes was the source of the leak. And if he wanted to make money from these recordings, then the Cannibal Corpse should make an official release out of it. They ended up doing that, albeit 4 years later, with the 15-year Killing Spree box set. Now, I feel the release of these Created to Kill songs vindicated Cannibal Corpse, especially George, because Vile is clearly better, and George has sounded consistently great. He's sounded pretty much the same since Gallery of Suicide onward. In between Monstrosity's Millennium album and Gallery of Suicide, he changed his vocal technique to where he sang from the pit more so than the throat. So as a result, he sounded a bit powerful and definitely a lot more clearer. But Chris Barnes, his vocal deterioration was clearly evident by the same time in 1997. Now, when 6 Feet Under released Warpath, I remember listening to that with a room full of other death metal fans when it first came out, right? And we were all shocked by Chris's embarrassingly bad vocal performance. Now, I think it was Justin Horval who said that Chris sounds like somebody who hates death metal trying to make fun of it. Now, this guy used to sound like a monster, and then he just went to sounding the way he does now. Okay, so here's another funny story. I looked up Jack Owen's eBay account at the time. He was selling some of his CDs, so I guess he was selling like a Prince CD and a Marilyn Manson CD and some other stuff that he had. But one thing that is very ironic and funny was he was selling his Maximum Violence CD by 6 Feet Under, which had been out for probably a little bit less than a year at the time. So I guess he got sick of that album already, but he ended up joining that band damn near 2 decades later. So that's pretty funny. So in 2015, I met Jack Owen of he was in Deicide at the time, at a show in Austin. And I told him the exact story that I'm telling you. We had a good laugh about it. You know, enough time has passed. It's all water under the bridge, right? And I figured the least I could do to make up for all the money I made for this was to buy him a shot. So I asked him what he wanted to drink, and he said Jägermeister. I was like, kind of like, ooh, but whatever. We'll drink some Jägermeister together. So that's the least I could do. We did a shot of Jaeger together, and that was that. I have a few other old stories that I may share someday. Tell me about what you think about this story.